Welcome to night 6 of the 12 Days of Halloween. Tonight, twin sisters flee cross-country with evil forces in hot pursuit, eager to wrest control of their supernatural powers. In A Hawk in the Woods, that's the book I'm reviewing on this episode of SFF180. Hello everyone, Thomas here, your host as always. Thank you for joining me. New Yorker Carrie Laben is an author whose career hit the ground running when her very first short story sale to Clark's World in 2007 became a Shirley Jackson Award finalist. A Hawk in the Woods, her first novel, is a Lovecraft pastiche, which we are seeing a lot of these days, but it's also very much a one-of-a-kind story. It isn't framed in the same way as so many contemporary takes on Lovecraft are, as either adoring fanfic or an exercise in, I'll just rewrite this classic story except without all the racism. It draws much of its early inspiration from outlaw road trip sagas, and what could be more Americana than that, before drawing us gradually in to more eldritch territory. And while it's a bit hampered by a languid pace that doesn't always generate edge-of-your-seat terror, it's a compelling supernatural drama of dark forces and family ties. So many of Lovecraft's original stories were about families, and A Hawk in the Woods gives that aspect of his work startling new dimension. Abby Waite is a former TV reporter whose aspirations to fame in the world of internet journalism haven't quite panned out as she had hoped, and now she's been diagnosed with late-stage melanoma. Immediately, Laben throws our expectations for a loop. As we learn, Abby has a twin, Martha, in state prison. Abby's immediate plan, upon hearing her diagnosis, is to break Martha out and flee to a family cabin deep in the wilds of Minnesota. It may be the case that if you read for rich character treatments, your first choice might not be horror fiction, but Laben demonstrates great sensitivity to character, and the relationship between Abby and Martha feels so authentic that you can find yourself sympathetic even when Abby is behaving in ways well beyond the threshold of what most of us would consider acceptable, let alone likable. The sisters' childhood experiences, rife with abuse at the hands of their grandfather as well as peers and classmates, doesn't necessarily excuse some of their choices, but it does make them understandable. Abby and Martha have powers, you see, and they come from a family where such powers were valued more highly than flesh and blood. Abby grew up under the instruction of her grandfather and mother, where she developed the ability to impose her will upon others. But what her grandfather really yearned for was the power to fold time, pushing briefly into the future or the past. And when Martha began manifesting this power, their grandfather quickly proved there was no ethical boundary he wouldn't violate to wrest it for himself. In particular, he uses transference, the literal swapping of minds and bodies. As Lovecraft fans will have guessed by now, Laben is riffing on The Thing on the Doorstep, which not only has the grisliest ending of any of Lovecraft's stories, it's the one story of his in which the central mystery and horror driving the plot was centered on a female character. It's easy to see there's enough raw material there to inspire a story about sisterhood, and Carrie Laben has certainly run with it. Structurally, the book makes a daring choice. The first half of each chapter details the present day. Abby, with the help of Martha's time-folding ability, breaks her sister out, and they flee along the highways and byways, pursued by red-tailed hawks that are clearly under someone or something's thrall. Eventually, they discover they've taken more than one wrong turn and have wound up far off course from Minnesota, and that evil parties are in hot pursuit. The second half of each chapter, in turn, tells of Abby and Martha's childhoods, and the series of events that led them to where they now find themselves as adults. Laben keeps a lot of information close to the vest, teasing out revelations as the narrative unspools. At the beginning, we don't know exactly why Martha's been behind bars for decades, although we can venture a guess. Nor do we have a clear idea of what Abby intends once they reach the old homestead in Minnesota, which may or may not still even exist. We begin to infer answers the further we read. The book doesn't offer us, oh my god moments. They're more like, aha moments. Little pieces of the puzzle that we just click into place as they're offered to us. It may not be the white-knuckle momentum of Stephen King when he's on a tear, but it definitely rewards readers with the patience to be immersed, not simply shocked. And there you have it. That's all I've got for this episode of SFF180. I want to remind you the most important thing, these are reviews. You will not always agree with me, but if you enjoyed watching, hit that like button, share the video far and wide with all of your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe if you have not done so. That is how the channel grows. You can also support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Wink's Army get little perks like getting to see some of my videos early. I want to thank those people for their additional support. It is incredibly helpful and much appreciated. I want to thank all the rest of you folks for being the very best viewers in all of BookTube, and until I see all of you for the next installment of the 12 Days of Halloween, spooky reading.